I have an article here. I'm just going to read from it. I sent it to you prior. I'm going to link it in the video. Um, and I just have a couple parts I wanted to talk about in it. So, the first talk this year about the Ukraine war was on February 18th, and it was between the US and Russia, Saudi Arabia. Sorry, mixed up my Arab countries. And this was sort of like denounced by a lot of the media for being for not having Ukraine at the table. Zelensky said, "We're not going to accept anything that doesn't have us like agreeing to it. Like doesn't have us at the table. You know, if you're talking about it, if you're making a deal, we're not going to agree to it." So, sure. Secretary of State Marco Rubio headed to with the U.S. delegation with Moscow's top diplomat Lavrov leading the Russian mission. In a statement following Tuesday morning, State Department spokesman Tammy Bruce said Rubio and Lavrov had agreed to lay the groundwork for future cooperation on matters of mutual geopolitical interest and historical, economic, and investment opportunities, which will emerge from a successful end to the conflict in Ukraine. Bruce also noted that the U.S. and Russia would appoint high-level teams to begin working on a path ending the conflicts in Ukraine as soon as possible in a way that is enduring, sustainable, and acceptable to all sides. So, you know, people didn't like that. There was a bit of a red flag there with the investment thing because nobody wants to hear investments when talking about ceasefires for wars. But basically this happened and it prompted a meeting with Zelensky. And the meeting with Zelensky went terribly.
If you didn't have our military equipment, this war would have been over in 2 weeks.
In 3 days. I heard it from Putin. In 3 days. This is something
maybe
new.
Less.
In 2 weeks. Of course, yes.
It's going to be a very hard thing to do business like this.
Again,
I tell you.
Just say thank you.
I said a lot of times to American people.
Accept that there are disagreements, and let's go litigate those disagreements rather than trying to fight it out in the American media when you're wrong. We know that you're wrong.
But you see, I think it's good for the American people to see what's going on.
I understand, sir.
I think it's very important. That's why I kept this going so long. You have to be thankful. You don't have the cards. You're buried there. Your people are dying. You're running low on soldiers. Listen, you're running low on soldiers. It would be a damn good thing. And then you tell us, I don't want a ceasefire. I don't want a ceasefire. I want to go and I want this. Look. If you could get a ceasefire right now, I tell you, you take it so the bullets stop flying and your men stop getting killed.
Of course, we want to stop the war.
But you're saying you don't want a ceasefire.
But I said to you,
I want a ceasefire.
With guarantees.
Because you'll get a ceasefire faster than an agreement.
Ask our people about ceasefire, what they think.
That wasn't with me.
For you what,
that wasn't with me. That was with a guy named Biden who was not a smart person. That was with Obama.
It was your president.
Excuse me. That was with Obama who gave you sheets and I gave you javelins.
Yes.
I gave you the javelins to take out all those tanks. Obama gave you sheets. In fact, the statement is Obama gave sheets and Trump gave javelins. You got to be more thankful because let me tell you, you don't have the cards. With us, you have the cards. But without us, you don't have any cards.
One more question to Mr. Vice President. I'm sorry.
It's going to be a tough deal to make because the attitudes have to change.
What if Russia breaks ceasefire? What if Russia breaks peace talks? What do you do then? I understand that it's a heated conversation right now.
What are you saying?
She's asking, what if Russia breaks the ceasefire?
What if anything? What if a bomb drops on your head right now? Okay? What if they broke it? I don't know. They broke it with Biden because Biden, they didn't respect him. They didn't respect Obama. They respect me.
Zelensky's trying to warn Trump that if they fall, then European countries are next, and then you're next. You're across the ocean. You feel safe now, but it's eventually coming for you. Trump was like, don't tell me how I'm going to feel. I don't like that. And then J.D. Vance yelled at him a bunch too. They basically like said that he was being like petulant and that
ungrateful.
Ungrateful. That's the exact word. And really like so far with the two talks, it looks a lot like there's a bend going on, you know, whether or not like it's intentional or whether it's just because they're more like ideologically aligned with like Putin on certain things. But either way, it looks weird because they're reaching out to Russia and they're letting Ukraine reach out to them. like without even getting into any of the nitty gritties there. I guess what I would ask is, do you think it's a bad sign for Ukraine that the Saudi Arabia summit reportedly went well while the Zelensky meeting went poorly? And do you think the harsh tone was political theater to appease other people, or an effort to actually set a pretense for ending aid to Ukraine?
I don't know about the latter, but effectively that's happened anyway. So, I think Trump has a fairly simplistic view of international relations and deals, where a typical ceasefire or some sort of peace agreement can take sometimes years to conclude, or with all sorts of stages, and lots of things are set up ahead of time, so that when principals arrive, then the deal is basically done. They're not walking into something where it's like, well, what are we going to talk about today? Like, everything is framed out. Trump doesn't act and work that way. And so I would suspect that Rubio, and I think Witkoff was there too. If he wasn't, he's been a part of several of these back and forths. Were there to, basically take a sense of what Lavrov, and thus by extension Putin's position was, and then go back to Trump and report on that, so that they could set up the phone calls that Putin and Trump have held in the intervening months. And so that's why it went very well, because there really wasn't a whole lot other than to establish, we're going to talk, and maybe we can talk about these things. When it comes to the February visit of Zelensky to the White House, I mean, there were a lot of people who were shocked, and rightfully so. I mean, that is not something that we have ever seen in a White House press moment of something like that. Clearly, he's done it to a few other people since, the president of South Africa, for one.
Right.
But what I immediately thought is all these, there were many people who were jumping to Zelensky's defense, and, and he had to suspect that he was probably going into something like that, because he knew Trump from before, from the first term. And second, I don't know who has ever gotten into an argument with an Eastern European person, but, they're not going to back down. Like, he can handle himself. He's been avoiding getting killed since, February of 2022. So
yeah,
I don't think having somebody yell at him is really going to faze him all that much.
Yeah.
So the fact that it went bad, I'm not surprised, because of the ideological and perhaps more alignment of folks in the Trump administration towards Russia and Putin. Clearly, Trump really likes him personally and sees a lot to admire in what he is and how he runs his country, which says a lot to me.
Kind of a bummer.
Yeah, it's not something. As of 50, how old am I? 58, 50, 57, let's call it that. I grew up in a world where, you had the Soviet Union and the United States, and the Soviet Union was the enemy. It was, and to see that kind of fawning behavior, and it was really, really disturbing, I just constantly like, what happened in the world that this has happened? And this is just as a person, as a political scientist and somebody who cares about democracy, it's deeply worrying.
Right.
I hope that answers your question. Did I get there?
No, I think that really did. And even if it doesn't, I have answers that I have in mind when I ask these questions, but what I'm looking for is something completely different, like what you have, and that is good to know. And that's really interesting. The him getting into an argument and probably not, like, we're probably more offended on his behalf than he was over that. Like, and that makes a lot of sense.
He's been yelled at before.
Yeah, I mean, he's had people dying. He's not as worried about that.
Yeah, exactly.